Good morning. Welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we're going to be reading Deuteronomy chapter 13. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God proveth you to know whether ye love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Ye shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams, shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, Let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely, of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth, thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him. But thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. And thou shalt stone him with stones, that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you. If thou shalt hear say in one of thy cities, which the Lord thy God hath given thee to dwell there, saying, Certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, Let us go and serve other gods, which ye have not known. Then shalt thou inquire, and make search, and ask diligently. And behold, if it be truth, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof with the edge of the sword. And thou shalt gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street thereof, and shalt burn with fire the city, and all the spoil thereof every whit, for the Lord thy God, and it shall be an heap forever. It shall not be built again. And there shall cleave naught of the cursed thing to thine hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger, and shew thee mercy, and have compassion upon thee, and multiply thee, as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, when thou shalt hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep all his commandments which I command thee this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of the Lord thy God. Summarizing Deuteronomy chapter 13, Moses is continuing his extended farewell to Israel. He will die once the Israelites take Canaan. Verses 1 through 4. If a prophet or a dreamer gives a sign that comes to pass, then tries to use that event to encourage worshiping other deities, do not believe this person. God has proven himself. You are to honor God and to keep his commands. Verse 5. Put that prophet to death. They have attempted to deceive you away from God. Verses 6 through 11. If your brother, your mother's son, your daughter, wife, or friend suggests that you worship other deities, specifically the ones of the nearby populations, do not pity, spare, or conceal them. Be the first to put him to death. Stone him. All of Israel must obey. And then when we get to verses 12 through 16, we see this same information being repeated by Moses. If you hear that worthless men are seducing others into worshiping other deities, investigate thoroughly. If this is true, Kill the participants and destroy their city. Kill their cattle. Burn their possessions. Do not build anything else in that area. Then verses 17 and 18. Do not keep any of that property. Obey God's commands. First thing that I would like for us to look at, worthless fellows / the children of Belial. So in the King James Version that I read from, the children of Belial is what's used, but as you can see in these other translations, you don't see that. And I do use the interlinear Bible, but if I feel like I can get through a chapter without any additional sources, I don't always use the interlinear unless I'm just confused about something. So for this, also Deuteronomy is Moses addressing, so far it's just Moses addressing Israel and telling them everything from Leviticus and Numbers, so and Exodus. So I've kind of already went through a lot of that information. So that's kind of why I don't need to use the dictionary and the interlinear every single time. So we see this term Bilal in the King James, but then when you look at these other ones, it's just sort of saying like a no good person. When you look up the term Bilal, it's it says term personified as the devil. So a no good guy, a scoundrel. I think we should say scoundrel. So Moses is repeating himself in quite a few of these chapters, but in this one, he's repeating the same thing twice. Don't worship other gods. If someone is caught worshiping other gods, if someone tries to use a sign or persuade you, kill them. So when we read Deuteronomy chapter 12, we saw this term Asherim. The first time I saw the term Asherim, this was in Exodus chapter 34. So in that video for that chapter, I pulled up this website, thattheworldmayknow.org. This is a decorated theologist who wrote about Asherah and the Canaanite deities. The reason why this is important is because this suggests in the future that Israel turns back to idol worship. The implications of this, keep in mind, Moses was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter. Even though he's Hebrew, he had the opportunity to live the life of an Egyptian. Knowing his heritage, he still chose, when he saw an Egyptian berating and treating a Hebrew person horribly, he killed the Egyptian. He still felt a sense of loyalty to this slave class of people that he didn't have to do anything for. When he saw the Hebrews arguing the next day or sometime later, the Hebrews reminded him that he murdered an Egyptian, even though that was for their benefit. They didn't see his act of kindness as that. They used that to mock him. So Moses left and he married a woman outside of that territory. He could have stayed there and been a married man with his child, but God told him he wanted him to lead Israel. Israel is a slave class. They don't have any status. They don't have an identity. It's going to be a lot to deal with these people because they've never had anything. They've been in bondage for over 400 years. Moses doesn't feel he can lead them, so he enlists the help of his brother, who happily obliges and brings his children into the ministry. over the time, we don't hear him talking about his wife, or the Bible doesn't mention his wife. He got married again. The Bible doesn't mention his other wife. The thing about this is, Moses made so many sacrifices when he didn't have to. He could have remained an Egyptian living in safety. He could have lived outside of that city and stayed married with his wife. He could have just dipped at any time. But instead, he saw fit to sacrifice his life to do what God wanted him to do for his people. Personally, he could have had a better life, but he chose to honor God and to honor these people. He made one mistake. He probably made more mistakes than that. But one dire mistake caused God. That mistake that he made of hitting the rock instead of speaking to it like God told him to. God told him, because of that, you're not going to go into Canaan. So after all that sacrifice, he's not going to get to go into Canaan with them, even though it wasn't his fault that it wasn't his fault that Israel in Numbers chapter 13 didn't have the right attitude to take the land the first time. He had to wait 40 years for the people that he came out of Egypt with to die out. And this current generation is the second generation, the children of the deceased. He's an older man now. There's no mention of his wife. There's no mention of his children. His brother is gone. His sister is gone. His brother's children are gone. And God tells him he's going to die. You're going to have to go up into a mountain and die. And then when we look here in the future, what was it all really worth? The Israelites went back to idol worship anyway. So, reading this, I'm understanding why so much time and respect is given to Moses to let him talk. When I first started reading this, I was annoyed because I'm thinking, Moses is talking, and when are we going to move on to some action? It's because you're supposed to look deeper. This is horrible that this man sacrificed his life when he could have lived as an Egyptian. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to listen to God. He didn't get to go into the promised land anyway. Well, that's what I have for Deuteronomy chapter 13. The next upload will be chapter 14. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I love you. I know me and you are going to have a wonderful day. God bless you.